In Reset, you note that Iran's history of pushing for democracy goes back a lot further than many Americans know. Where does it begin?
Iran, although it has this repressive theocratic government, is actually a tremendously vibrant democratic society. This is a country that's had a constitution for 100 years. People in Iran are fully aware of what is an election, what is a parliament, what is a political campaign. They grasp not just the forms of democracy, but the way that democracy is a whole way of dealing with life's problems. That makes them actually very good partners for us, because good partners are actually countries whose societies resemble your own. And Iranian society, as I saw just in my recent visit there, is vibrantly democratic. It's the only country in the Muslim Middle East where most people are pro-American, and it's really quite a shock to be standing on a street corner in the Middle East and have somebody come up to you and say, "We know they say terrible things about us, but we love America so much." It's a rare opportunity. So Iran, as far as the population is concerned, is a very different country from the stereotype people might have. Iran had a constitutional revolution back in 1906. It means that Iranians decided on their own that they wanted democracy. It was not brought to them by a foreign army at the point of a gun, and they've had many generations to assimilate it. Iranians had to fight to defend their democracy. They have a very good appreciation for how valuable democracy is, and I think the fact that their own democracy is so limited and the fact that they admire what the U.S. has done helps explain this remarkable pro-American sentiment in a country whose government is so outspokenly critical of the United States.
What factors have thwarted them from achieving democracy, both in terms of the great power involvement and factors within their own society?
It's a very interesting question. So Turkey and Iran are the two countries that have long democratic traditions, over 100 years of working toward democracy. Turkey, however, managed to consolidate its democracy pretty effectively. Iran has not. Why? There are various reasons, but I'll tell you one of the most important ones. Iran was so-called blessed with resources. Actually, their resource was a curse. Iran is very rich in oil. Turkey has no oil. What it means is that Iran had something that rich and powerful outsiders wanted to steal. Turkey didn't have anything that anybody wanted to steal, so outside powers didn't bother Turkey so much. Iran actually had a functioning democracy in the period after World War II, but that democratic government, responding to the will of the people, decided to nationalize the Iranian oil industry. That sent the Americans and the British crazy, and we intervened in 1953 to end democratic rule in Iran. That might have happened in Turkey also if Turkey had had something that the world wanted. So in a way, instead of blessed with resources, you might say that Iran's oil gave it a curse.
Given the U.S. involvement in the 1953 coup and in the Iran-Iraq War, how have Iranians maintained a love for Americans that you say they have? How is that possible?
I'm not sure they've maintained it. I think they may have come back to it. I think there was a period of great anti-American sentiment there, but as Iranians, first of all, become more frustrated with their own government, America represents more and more what they would like to have. In addition, I think that Iranians are more tied in to the outside world than anyone else in the Muslim Middle East. The internet culture is huge. The triumph of American popular culture in Iran is total. It's an extremely young country. This is an amazing statistic. 70% of Iranians are under 30. It means they don't remember the Shah and the Islamic Revolution at all. They're very aware of what they don't have. They see that Americans have what they would like to have. And I think they admire what Americans have been able to achieve within the framework of democracy. That is their model and their dream. It's remarkable to me how little our policy, certainly toward Iran, has changed from the last few years of the Bush administration. Essentially, our approach to Iran is this. You have to negotiate with us and reach curbs on your nuclear program. I don't think this is a realistic approach because there's no incentive for Iran to do this. Essentially, we're asking Iran to give up the highest card in its diplomatic hand just in exchange for a promise that they can then come into a room and talk to us. That's not a good deal for them. We have to put ourselves in their shoes. How would we be able to curb this terrifying escalation of the nuclear program in Iran? I think the only way to do it is to ask Iran for negotiations that wouldn't be confined only to the issue that we care about, but we would also allow the Iranians to bring to the table issues that they care about. Therefore, if the negotiations are on all issues, everything we don't like about Iran and everything Iran doesn't like about us, then you could make some kind of a global deal in which Iran would feel that it got something, and we would then get what we want most, which is curbs on the nuclear program. But it's not realistic to expect Iran to give up that program without getting something in return.
It seems the U.S. has long sought to contain Iran. Is that still our strategy today, and is that what prevents us from realizing the way Iranians today feel about the U.S. and democracy?
I do think that's part of the reason. If we deal with Iran more directly on a wider variety of issues, we're afraid that this will turn Iran into a regional power. But the reality is, for better or worse, Iran already is a regional power. First of all, just look at its location. You look at a map of the Middle East, Iran is the big country right in the middle. It's logical that that country would be powerful. In addition, we greatly empowered Iran by getting rid of the two regimes that hated Iran. We got rid of Saddam, who was their biggest enemy in next door Iraq, and then we got rid of the Taliban, who they hated, in next door Afghanistan. So we essentially turned Iraq over to Iran. We have helped boost Iran into this regional power status, and now we're very upset that Iran is this way. So, as I say, it might be better for us if Iran were not a regional power, but you have to deal with the world as it is. And the fact is, none of America's major strategic goals in the Middle East can be reached without Iran. Whether it's a nuclear-free Middle East, or an end to Israel-Palestine conflict, or reducing sectarian conflict in Lebanon, or all of these great issues, a democratic and stable Iraq, these are not achievable without Iran. So it's important for us to leave our emotions out of the room. We're still very angry at Iran for a lot of reasons, but we need to let that go and deal with Iran on a different basis, which is to ask ourselves, what's good for us? In the long run, Iran has strategic goals that are in common with ours, although that might sound a little strange compared to what we hear in the newspapers, and Iranian society is very much like ours. So maybe not tomorrow, but over the 21st century, Iran makes a very good partner for the U.S.